Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Health and Fitness Show with Tracy. For those who know me or don't know me, I'm Tracy L. Markley. I'm an author of 14 books. I've written 2 courses. I have videos around in social media and on YouTube to help stroke survivors and people in fitness. I've been in the industry for nearly 30 years. And if you know my work or you're new, all my work is about helping people, sharing my knowledge, sharing my personal experiences. And I had the Health and Fitness Show on KXCR radio for a couple of years, and now I'm bringing it on a podcast. And I've been asked to do a podcast and a book, which is coming on this specific subject. And I have a special guest. So the subject is, we'll be talking about fitness and health, but it's going to be combined with dealing with loss and grief, because that's a big part of health and our mindset, and we can't escape that's a part of life. So my guest for my very first podcast interview is Peter Twist. And Peter Twist is well known in the fitness and sport industry. He has studied brain and body connection, and he has courses and work and his education, and he teaches about 3D movement skills, mindset, motivation, and holistic health. He's done over 22 certification courses. He's worked for over 11 years with the NHL as a sports coach. He's owned, if I'm getting it right, 12 training facilities where he trained over 22,000 college students, high school students, and professional athletes. He has defeated stage 4 cancer, and the list can go on, but I'm going to bring him on right now so we can just go into it. So welcome, Peter Twist.
Thank you very much, Tracy. I'm very pleased to be here and honored to join you on the relaunch of your podcast and radio show, and always great to get together and chat.
Thank you. So, is there anything I left off on your great bio and your life of achievements? Adamant. You were the idea. Did you get the Jack LaLanne Award? Which award did you get?
Haven't nabbed that Jack LaLanne Lifetime Achievement Award yet. I think I'm old enough for that now. But Idea World. Well, I took Idea to China. That was a nice accomplishment with the goal of scaling positive impact. And then what you're asking about, I think, was the Idea Programmer of the Year award, the Idea China Inspiration Award, and China's Inspiration Award. And then there was Ideal World back when I had a health wrinkle to iron out and persevered through.
And I've seen you on stage.
They were great enough to pass me an Inspiration Award.
Nice. Okay, I knew it was something. I couldn't remember which one.
Yeah, lots of good days with Idea World.
Yeah. I had this dream. I want to be on stage one day and win awards. Like, oh my God, I did. But then COVID hit and I couldn't get my award on stage because it was during COVID time.
That's right.
I had to get mine during a webcam. So
yeah, it was nice. It's funny you asked about the Jack LaLanne Award. I was sitting beside Elaine LaLanne when you did the year after you won your award, and they did call you back up on stage and acknowledge that. And I think you were introducing the new winner. So you did get some stage time, which was great to see.
I did. It was nice. I was so nervous, and and I will share too. So for everyone listening and in the show, part of me doing the show, like I said, is to talk about grief and loss and how it affects our life. At that time, we were at the convention. It was 2022, I think it was, in Vegas. I was like overcoming. I've lost. So those who know, I've lost my stepfather. And then within 4 months, I lost my father. And then 6 months, I lost my dog, Wasabi. This is my picture of him with the bridge in my small town I used to have. And then him right there. You just can't get him in the picture now. Anyway, so I lost him. And then 3 weeks later, my mother and I left Oregon. We both downsized our homes and moved in together in the Long Beach home that she still owned with my father. And that we had our dynamics we were dealing with and everything. And then she got pancreas cancer and she passed away. So it's just been wham, bam, bam, bam. And all my parents died at 80 years old. And sometimes I just feel lost. I'm like, I can't call them. And there's always one still here. So it's just kind of, and so today is the year anniversary of my mother's death. And that's worked out good that we're doing this on this day.
Yes, I'm quite honored to to
Yeah.
huddle up here together with you on this day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And um oh, I won't share that. Okay, should I share something kind of weird? Okay, so I just realized, so I have the home. The room I'm in is my office, but it doesn't feel like the house I grew up at all. It feels like a nice new home. I'm sitting in the room I was conceived in and the room my mom passed away in. And I just realized, oh my God, that's wasn't my plan. So, oh well, that was weird, but hey, that's life. So, okay, so Peter Twist. I know you lost your dog as well. Bruno. He had, if you guys know us, you know, I had Wasabi and he had Bruno, and Bruno was also Husky Wolf. How are you doing with that? Can I ask you that?
Uh, I'm doing far better than people anticipate. You know, I've gotten great. I've gotten skilled through life at, you know, if we always wait for a happy time, like everything's going well, you know, and now I'll give myself permission to be happy, then I'm
Yeah.
gonna come and go and die myself, and that day won't ever be here, probably. And so I've gotten skilled at acknowledging and living, you know, let's say sadness, but saving an abundant amount of space for happiness. And I believe we can feel both at the same time and honor both. And of course, which one we choose to nourish is going to grow more inside of us as well. So Bruno was a different situation. Those listeners that don't know, had the opportunity to chip in and help with a dog rescue where we brought 140 small lap dog puppies from LA who were overbred and I think they were putting down 800 dogs a day in LA at the time. And we filled the plane to bring it back to Canada, and there was still some room. And we said, screw it, let's get some big dogs. And keep in mind, you had to have all the paperwork and everything pre-arranged and the adopted families arranged for those 140 dogs. So we just kind of took the 6 big dogs and asked for forgiveness later. Bruno, the big, giant, majestic husky, was the last dog to make it on the plane. If he hadn't squeezed his crate onto that plane, he was being put down the next couple of days. That was the end of his life. And the first 6 years in LA were he was just abused, not let outside, not exercised. But when I met him in the Canadian side on the plane, my job was, Tracy, was to unload all the dogs. And so the first dog I met was big Bruno in his crate, and I felt an immediate connection. Like we've known each other before. And so I kept him up there with me as I unloaded the other 145 dogs. And there just to volunteer. And keep in mind, I was leaving the next day for China, Thailand, and Russia for a 3-week lecturing and consulting trip. Not the best time to adopt a dog. Bruno was available and needed a home. And I went to volunteer, and I left having adopted a husky. And I helped Bruno heal from all his abuse and opened him up to a life off leash in the mountains, roaming through rainforests every day. Came to me off leash, to my office, to my gyms. And it was amazing to watch his spirit reappear and evolve. But he was healing for me, and he was a healer on his path for people we met every day. A day didn't go by that he didn't receive at least 25 hugs from strangers on our path, that handsome husky. So in that lead in, to give context to your listeners, pre-COVID, I was on 80 flights a year, and during COVID, I was on 0. And so I was really blessed with more time with Bruno at the very end of his life. And the last couple of years for a big dog, you see it coming.
You do.
You know, they're 60, all of a sudden they're 70 in human years, then they're 80, then they're 90.
Yeah.
And So when you asked, your question was, how am I doing with Bruno having died? And I do use the word die. He didn't pass. He died. There, I use adult words. I can handle it. That's my way.
That's
And
true. Mhm.
I appreciate if others prefer not to, but the reality is he died.
Yeah.
Um, and stepping into that, the last year, when he did pass away, I'll be more respectful of everyone's ears. When he passed away, and I thought I would just be destroyed, and what I immediately felt was celebratory in that I felt like I was doing a standing ovation. That's what I felt like inside. I felt like I was doing a standing ovation for him
To his
and
life.
just in awe that
Oh,
he was so amazing, and my life experience with him was such an amazing, majestic adventure. Uh, I was just like, oh, I was applauding him, like that was exceptionally done. That's what I was telling him. But I was in that position, and of course, I felt sad. I still feel sad. I talk to him every day, and mainly thank him, tell him I admire him and respect him, and um,
I do that too.
yeah. But I had the advantage, for lack of a better word, to mourn him while he was alive, because the last year he was slowing down so much, like we could both see it coming,
Yeah.
and I was already mourning his loss while he was the loss while he was still here.
I did the same
And I, I
thing. It's
think I,
hard.
I think I'd done an abundant enough of that. I had told him so many times, like, you want the last words you have with someone to be able to really tell them how you feel and so on. I did that so many times near the end. Bruno just started to look at me like, yeah, this is awesome, but I've heard it so many
I
times.
did the same thing. Oh my God. I would kiss Wasabi in the head and go, I'm gonna give you like 50 more because you might not be able to be here next month to give them to you. Like the last year and a half, I was constantly thinking he could pass. So be everything I can to him. And I was the same thing, COVID time.
Yeah,
But COVID also gave me time to be with my stepdad too. Because he went from prostate to bone cancer, went from April to July. And I was so glad my business was closed down at that moment. That's why I welcomed COVID. I was just so glad to have my time. And then Wasabi got to be with my stepdad through it all, this house. We'd go over there with him. So yeah, so not that I ever welcomed COVID, but it did help
yeah,
with things like you talked about. And I love how you and I love that you said that about the word passing and the word died, because it does affect people. I don't think people are offended by it, but I think when we say they're died, it seems more real than passing.
yeah.
I do that when I write and like, oh no, put passing. And I never thought anyone did that until you said that. I'm like, I totally get that. It's almost like it sounds like a more permanent word.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and I
And
get we're using a nicer word, and there is passing to the other side with whatever that means for each
yeah,
person's beliefs. So it is a legitimate word as well.
yeah,
But for my own handling of loss, I also prefer to be real.
yeah. And that's the thing too with grief and loss for all of us. We're all so different, and we all have different upbringing, different spiritual
Yes,
beliefs. Some believe
yes,
in God, some don't. Angel, we all have these different things, and it's not like a right or wrong, or black and white, or oh, I lost this person or animal today. It's a year from now. I have to be better right now. Like I think people think it's a structured thing. You must think this way. You must act this way. You can't cry anymore. It's been 5 months, and it's like there's no rules to what we deal with when we lose things we love or have in our life, whether it's work or business or spouse, everything. I mean, I had my stepdaughters, and my stepdaughter had cancer, and I never saw her after she had cancer. So I lost her completely.
yeah,
And that took me years to be able to even say her name without crying. I mean,
right.
but that's kind of how we are when people pass. The first, it's just, or it might be a year ago, and all of a sudden you see a truck and you just break down crying like something happened yesterday. And And
Yeah,
that's
it's
one reason I
going
want
to sneak up in waves when you least
to.
expect it, where it comes back, your grief comes back in a big
Hmm.
wave,
Because we're
surprisingly.
human and we loved. And I think not everywhere, but I think sometimes a lot of social media, of course, we push positivity and motivation, which is all good. But I think sometimes it gets skipped in certain places and people think, oh my God, I'm grieving. I must be negative. People think if you cry about something, you're negative, but no, it's not negative or positive. It's just what it is. Some things aren't black and white or negative or positive. And maybe there'll be five siblings in a family and one cries more over a parent and then the other one. It doesn't mean one's right or wrong. It's just how everyone deals with it or gets by. We're all like surviving. We're all surviving, getting up each day and trying to be happy. And
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it'd be great if people can give themselves permission to give themselves grace and be kind on ourselves
kind to ourselves.
and
Yeah.
kind with other people, but kind on ourselves and just recognize, well, wherever we're at in our process, we're right on time because this
Yeah.
is where we are and this is our life path. This is our story, no one else's.
And,
And so if it's
and
a
what I was,
longer path versus a shorter one, then that's just fine. That's what that person needs to do. And crying, goodness sakes, that's we all grow up being told don't cry and things like that, but that's just a natural physiological response that's there to help us with those emotional states. So,
yeah.
I would encourage someone like, please, like go ahead and cry. Like that is a process that helps them feel a
Yeah,
little bit
it
better.
releases it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
it's a release.
and
That's a good word.
And you said two things when when I first introduced you. One thing you said, well, you said the thing about the two words, but you also said that you can be happy and sad at the same time. You could still explain that. I mean, I kind of get it, but explain your way of that.
I think I'll try and explain it. You use for at first using an analogy of a garden. Let's say we're a garden, and we try and plant seeds to grow beautiful flowers, and so we have a garden with beautiful flowers, and there's a few weeds in there, right?
That,
And that's
yeah,
that's that's us. The weeds might be our faults, they might be mistakes, they might be setbacks, but they could be trauma and loss. Just in that visual analogy,
yeah.
in there, and that like beautiful flowers are still allowed to grow when there's a bunch of weeds there too.
And
It's
also
it's not
you'll
one
have
or it's
flowers
not
on a
one or the
plant.
other.
Yeah, and then
Um,
also you'll have flowers in a plant blooming while the other flowers are dying. You have
yeah,
one
no,
plant with both things happening.
absolutely, and I think I use the word skill because I didn't used to be able to do that. So naturally, it's something that we can learn.
Yes, it is
Just
a
like we
skill.
can improve our mindset. Of course, there's a toxic positivity, um, but there's also a truth in that person A could lose their home to financial crisis
Yeah.
and rate that a 7 out of 10 in stress, and it still might affect them financially in their life, but a couple months later it's not weighing them down very much. And someone else might literally a mental version of a situational version of stubbing their toe. They just stub their something happens in life that's on the level of stubbing their toe, and they rated a 10 out of 10 in stress and duress, and 2 years later it's still weighing them down, and they're
Yeah.
still getting together with their friends with coffee talking about it. Important to say, it's not a right or wrong. They're both correct, but it's where they're at, and it's the experience they have and the perception in which lens they look through in the self-talk, and whether they own their self-talk and shift it or don't, and it's out of control. It's their
Yeah.
perspective, it's their coping skills, it's their mindset strategies. Do they have any or none, or do they have 20 mindset methods to be able to
Right.
shift, and so on. So it's all about being authentic. um
But also
but
still
in
taking
I
control
think,
to help yourself.
pardon me.
but also still taking the control to help yourself.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
our ability to perceive difficulty differently and navigate it differently, and our skills around our mental well-being and emotions and mindset, that's varied from person to person. And of course, when we start out young, we don't have those skills, and we might come from a dysfunctional family that makes it even sets us even back further. But there's the opportunity, should we choose to walk down that path, um, to improve our abilities in those regards, so that when difficulty or loss or challenge or setback or failure or something's imposed upon us happens,
Yeah.
how each person feels and reacts to that and how much that affects their mind and emotions is wildly different on this miles wide spectrum,
Exactly. And it
right?
can depend.
And then what do you do with that? So we recognize these, let's just call it, they're not negative emotions, but for our mutual collective understanding. I don't like the positive negative, but negative emotions we wish we didn't feel because they're
Yeah.
not pleasant. Well, if that's happening, those are real. It's important to acknowledge them, live them, experience them, learn from them, honor them. But then how long do I need to stay in that? And do I need to stay in that for 10 years? Do I need to stay in that for a year? Do I need to stay in that for a month? And hopefully, as I go over time, and unfortunately, repeated exposures as part of,
Mhm.
we say resiliency is not found, it's forged
Yeah.
through experience of digging down deep. But over time, then, um, when I do experience negative emotions, and it could be loss and grief, my and loss is many things. Just to throw this in super quick, loss is just not about death. Loss affects us in many different sides of our life. Like, loss is a common part of life, and we can maybe talk about that a little bit. Um, but at any rate, I can graduate through that a lot faster today, not being as overwhelmed with heaviness as I once was. Now, if this
Right.
is my spouse or son or daughter or something that passes away, that's of a magnitude that
Yeah.
we're all hit and affected forever. But we're in the scope of all kinds of challenges in day-to-day life. um, our ability to get through a little bit lighter and a little bit less heavy, and to
Yeah.
honor it, but to graduate past it a lot quicker. There's such in inter person differences in our ability with that. And so I kind of bring this up and frame it up to encourage listeners to get curious about that to advantage themselves. And that's something that we can continue to learn and improve and grow in, so that life doesn't hit us as hard, even though the situation's the same, and we can
Yeah.
move past it a little quicker, a little wiser, and while saving space for
And I
happiness
also
while
think,
we have that duress.
and that will help us. What that it's hard. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes we don't have the energy to fight it, but you have to push yourself through. But that's also like when you talk about the brain and body connection, that will help our body be healthier if we try to keep moving instead of just settling in it and getting stuck. Even though sometimes we get stuck for a while, but you still try to get out. We
Yeah.
see, um, but like that's one of the things too. It's like, so something else you said, we're talking about like self-care. I think years ago, for a long time, it's been called, oh, be selfish, go home and be selfish. And so people got that mixed up with self-care isn't selfish. But I think that became kind of a cliche in the 80s or 90s or something. If you're taking care of yourself, it's, oh, go be selfish. But it's really not. It's self-care. It's not selfish. And we need to do it whatever level we need to be doing, and it will help us. Like with all my losses, I've tried so hard not to let it take me down. And I think
Yeah.
after my mom passed, I think I tried so hard. I think it took me down because I tried too hard. I was like, because so many times, and you probably got this too in the industry, we get people come to us that are maybe my age, I'm 58, and they're like, I just took care of my sick parent, I just left my
Yeah. Yeah.
parents, and they put on 40 pounds and they feel unhealthy, but they truly only you couldn't do certain things for yourself. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. It's going as, and I told myself, oh my God, that can't happen to me. So I think 2 days after mom passed, I went and got a massage because my back was hurting. I was trying not to let my back get hurt. My back turned into such a bad pain, I can barely move, and I'm still recovering from it. I know I left her in hospice, and I had to help her. She didn't like in her diapers. She had to get out of bed, and it was only me with her. So we had that going on too. But I personally, I'm not sure, but I know me. I want to get through the bad times so fast and feel good again.
Yeah.
I really think possibly I tried so hard, it worked against me but maybe not. Maybe I wasn't to get the back pain, but I was like, nope, I'm not going to gain weight. I'm not going to get back pain. I'm going to go get fixed right now. Before I even processed, my mom passed away. I was just so determined, and I might have messed with my head wrong. Not sure. I'll never know. I'm still trying to get through it. But
Well, it's
you go ahead.
I was gonna say it's interesting because I like to say the body knows, which means we need to remember that and honor that. Where you mentioned the word self-care, and I use the kind of poetic or rhythmic philosophy of be be selfish to be generous, which just means take self-care, lots of
Mhm.
healthy inputs, so we can be at our best, so we can be the most generous to everyone around us as well as for ourselves. It's not selfish, but it just rolls off the tongue and it's
Yeah,
memorable. It's
yeah,
really self-care, so you can be at your best and be your most generous, because nobody really wants the sick, uh the sick, angry, impatient, reactive, grumpy,
yeah,
negative version of me showing up. And no kid wants a parent like that.
yeah,
I'd rather my parent go to the gym an hour a day, or go for a 45-minute hike in the forest and be
yeah,
positive and peaceful and patient and grounded,
yeah.
right? And so that self-care allows us to be at our best, to be our most generous for those we love and everyone hopefully on our path. But your mention of like pushing through, and I commend you for that, and the mindset to be able to get after that. But our body still knows, meaning I'm really conscious now that even if my mindset seems to be great, and even if my emotions are okay, if I've been through something that's really tough, my cellular landscape still experienced that.
Ooh, that's a
Even
good way
if
to
I
word
was
it.
able to, help my emotions and my mindset, my body still needs time to recover. And that's where a lot of our trauma sets in.
Hmm.
And so, we also need to know it's an ebb and flow. It's a little bit of an art. When do you push through? When do you get in motion so you start to feel better? Because we know motion creates positive emotion.
Hmm.
Being in nature and outdoors creates positive emotion, and there's all kinds of scientifically evidenced benefit to our body, brain, emotions from nature. So
Especially
movement,
the forest.
nature, there you go. That's a great way to start. But when do I read intuitively that there's a chapter that I just need to tuck under the blankets for a while? I got the wind knocked out of me. I got to catch my breath.
Yeah,
So
I've
I'll
been
be
in
in
that mode.
motion next month. Right now, there's
Yeah.
not going to be much happening. I'm going to give peace and kindness and grace.
Hmm.
Give ourselves grace. When do we do that? And perhaps ideally that when we start in our baby steps, now I'm going to go for a walk, and I'm going to walk and check out the sunset along the beach
Yeah.
tonight. You know, that's intermixed with, while I'm doing other healthy inputs. I'm around people, environments. I'm back playing the piano. Maybe I'm having healthier food than worse food.
Mhm.
Trying to do things that are in my advantage.
Things that make you
Um,
feel good.
but still, I might need
Yeah,
to be catching my breath a lot of the time.
yeah,
So don't feel bad. Don't feel like you're not doing enough. Sometimes doing less is the best thing that you can do.
exactly. And I was forced to do it. I had no choice. I was going to teach my first course at IDEA. I did a speaking one, but I had to not do that, and that was like one of my goals in my career. I want to teach it at IDEA, and I was all excited, but I couldn't go because I couldn't even drive in my car with that back pain. So I couldn't drive, and I lived in Long Beach, and it was in LA. And it's like, all right, I can't. So I just had to like say no to everything, and exactly what you said. Sometimes that's just what you got to do. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes people feel guilty when they do that. Some people don't have to. I've been able to, because I have my own business. I have my on the books and Amazon. I didn't have to rush out and see clients. I was okay. But some people don't have that, and they still have to go to work during those times, and that makes it harder. And um, but when you're okay, your mindset. So I'm going to bring this up. Well, first, before we go to, I want to talk to those who don't know you went through cancer and your mindset. And I want to
Yes.
hear, I want you to share your story. You've probably shared it 1,000 times, but the story about the hood of your car. I just love that story. The cross you saw in your car, get back in the doctor's office. But
Yes.
but first, before we go there, um, you have a course on mindset, right? Just like you were talking. Can you share
I
that one?
do. I've way back, like a couple years ago, or make that 3 decades, whatever. They, um, part of my master's in sports science is in sports psychology. And way back in the NHL, my professional days, in my own camps, NHL, later the China Olympics, modernizing their summer and winter Olympic programs. But I advise and guide athletes through sports psychology methodologies to prepare for competition, and they're mental rehearsal and visualization and goal setting and stress reduction and so on. So that's really mindset and mental well-being. And it's interesting, people in society and in fitness and society, talking about mental health and mental well-being was something that was not spoken of
Yeah.
and for years, right? Until recently. But in sport, for performance, but the mindset and mental strength and mental performance has always been a big part of athlete performance. And we were free to speak about it. It was part of the way we develop athletes and
Yeah.
prepare them to do well. We want them mentally at their best. And and so all along the way, that graduated from that in a wider spectrum of mental well-being, because in my 12 training centers and Ayurvedic holistic health centers, we had clients who are battling cancer, brain injury, eating disorders. They've gone through things a lot of us go through, like career change, financial loss, divorce.
Yeah.
Um, so all kinds of change in life, which is our commonality along with difficulty, comes with loss.
Hmm.
Achievement and success, handling that. The only thing more difficult than failure is success. Success brings a lot more challenges than failure.
It
And
does.
when you're succeeding, you're also leaving behind the level and everything in that world that was there. And that's a part of loss as well.
It is.
And you're changing your personal identity with success. Now you're a higher version of yourself, so that old version is no more. That's difficult to accept and transition. A lot of people self-sabotage to go
That's a
back to
well
the
put.
old
Well
ID,
put.
right?
Yeah. Yep.
So all of these things are mindset and mental fitness, our self-talk, our attitude, our perception, our emotional quotient, our social emotional skills, our mental well-being. And so what I've done is I've kind of taken the last 30 years, Tracy, and I've selected like an all-star team of these are the simple methods proven time and time again, whether it's an Olympic athlete or a cancer patient or someone going through a divorce or an entrepreneur trying to get started. this helps them in profound ways. Simple learning and methods and actions that help people in profound ways are golden. And it's transferable to everyone. So I put a 12-week program together.
Oh, that's
Show you
awesome.
guys. This is really cool, I think. I
Yeah.
think so. It's my program. But there's more, put it this way, there's
Well, you're
more,
also a perfect example that it works.
it works. There's
Yeah.
more people in the world, truth. There's more people in the world that have a fitness exercise program for their ass and their abs than have a program
For their mind.
for their mindset and their mental well-being. I put mental well-being and mindset together. We don't see in mental health does not deal with mindset, it deals with mental health. But I've never yet met someone with a poor mindset who has exceptional mental well-being. It's not possible. And mindset is where a lot of the tools and skills. So it combines champion mindset with mental well-being. Essentially, what are the methods and strategies and tips and actionable things that you can do that are simple that shift you in a positive way all the way from survive? Let's say you're just trying to survive. And then if you get through that, then you need to you overcome and heal. Then there's a rebuilding phase, and you're aiming up to thrive. It's a survive to thrive continuum. And
I like that.
I'm a big believer that when we have our worst challenges and difficulties, they're our greatest opportunity to reach a higher level.
That,
Because,
that's
and
true.
I'm only
I
saying like
agree.
a number out of 10 just so I can quantify progress. This isn't really a rating, but let's say where I am in life is a 5 out of 10. And that would be if I'm in the mainstream of the world or the mainstream in North America, that'd be accurate. Mainstream is mediocre. It's average. There's
Mhm.
nothing exceptional happening. So I'm a 5 out of 10. I get cancer, I get divorced, or something else happens, some kind of devastation, big challenge, big difficulty. Now I'm at a 0.5. I'm just trying to stay above ground and trying to hang in and be real. And so I'm going to start to do, if as long as I don't give up, I'm going to start to do all kinds of things in my favor just to survive. Then I'm going to heal and I'm going to start to restore and rebuild. So I'm on an upward trajectory to get back to where I started, which was a 5 out of 10, we've said for this exercise. But I'm going from 0.5 out of 10 to 5 out of 10, and I'm an upward trajectory doing things in my favor based out of essential need to survive
Yeah.
and then to heal and restore and rebuild. What if I just keep going? Can I get to a 6 out of 10, a 7 out of 10 without question? I just don't stop doing things that advantage me that I was compelled to do when my back was against the wall, when I was
Yeah.
against the ropes, and I absolutely had to, right? But some people end up, if they go on that path at all, they opt out and they're back to like crappy food, sedentary living, around negative
Yeah.
people that gossips, wasting time watching Netflix more so than would be beneficial for them, etc. They get off that program that they were on. The opportunity just to stay with it and rise up a little bit higher.
Yeah.
So now you're the best version of yourself, and you got all of this strength and wisdom and perspective from being at the very bottom.
And your brain and your organs will be healthier in your body.
For sure. For
Especially
sure.
if you're feeding it well and drinking, you're doing healthy things.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you also have, wow, what a gift. You have the opportunity to carry that experience and perspective so you can approach everyone on your path with more kindness,
It-
understanding they have difficulties, more empathy, more respect, treat people with more dignity
Yes.
because you understand what it's like to get beat up pretty bad and struggle and have to overcome that. So that's a great gift in
Yeah.
some ways. It's these
So is this
infinite
a program
tools you
that's
can leverage.
is this a 12 week program that's live with you, or it's through your course? How do people, if they want to do that? I have to ask because that's something I'm probably going to do because that sounds great.
Yeah, thank you. It's a great question. And all of the methodologies and strategies that say that are in each of the 12 weeks
Okay.
come from live environments. So I work with this group of Olympic athletes. I work with this group of cancer patients. I work with this group of professional athletes, etc. And then I've assembled it, produced it, and it's 100% online. People can start any day, 365. There's other people taking it at all times. And each week, though, where I get to engage with people, number one is super highly visual. Super highly visual. It's more inspiring, I think, than in the live environment. People that when they start to get 3 weeks out of 12, 4 weeks out of 12, I start to get the messages. And I'm grateful. And I just say this because this is a program I'm so passionate about because of the impact on people. It literally game changes people's lives.
Yeah.
More so than any other area that I've shared with people and coached people and taught people. This is a game changer for people fundamentally. At about week 3 or week 4, I start to get messages from students that this has been so more wildly beneficial to them than anything they could have anticipated in the course.
And that feeling you get
only 3 or 4 weeks in.
And when people tell you something like that, I can't even express how you feel in your soul and your heart. You're like, oh, I hope I don't know how to express how great that feels when something you did, they share it truly helped their life. It's like, I don't know how to put that in words to explain how great that feels.
I agree with you. That's a great ROI, is the meaningfulness of having purpose and making an impact with people, helping them. And I'm going to share 2 things from your comment, if I may, Tracy. Number one is that 12-week program, part of it where I get to engage with people, and the participants, if they choose, can engage with each other. Each week has guided discussions online, much like you would have on social media, where I pose questions and learn by doing assignments. It's a course, but it's more of a program, because for 12 weeks, think of it like a fitness program, but it's for your mental fitness, your mental skills. And I teach and guide people on this theory and these stories that exemplify, that bring it to life and inspire them. But then here's your methods and strategy that's going to improve your mindset. And then I give them a learn by doing exercise, a mental exercise that they take out into the world.
Nice.
So there's a lot of reflection.
Yeah, that sounds fun too.
It's experiential. They get to try something that this is a method and a strategy, super simple to implement. Go do it for the next week, and then measure it, observe. How does that affect other people on your path? How does that make you feel, affecting them that way? And what are the tangible results that you get out of that? And so people get to experience. It's more like an exercise program. Our coach or trainer teaches us, but then we exercise and we feel. We say the language of movement is written in feel. I can feel I'm moving better. Well, through this course, they get to experience they're thinking better and they're feeling better emotionally and mentally. So it's
it's like a thinking exercise program. Yeah. Too, that sounds like something, well, you probably really think this too, the way the world's so nutty. That seems like the kind of program that should be taught to junior high school and high school kids.
100%.
So they can go into the world better, feeling better, being better, and not so sucked into the ick that's going on, because there's just a lot of that right now. I hate to say it,
as one of 8 billion people, I always say I can learn from all 8 billion people. All 8 billion people know how to do something I don't.
Yeah.
Having said that, there's a small number of things I do really well. And my perspective from my shoes is that if what we're doing mentally and emotionally and our family dynamics and what we learn spiritual, what kind of spiritual enlightenment are people learning in society? And if those things were all buttoned down and actually worked, then the world would be peaceful, positive, kind, respectful. It would be a lot quieter,
Feel
a lot
safer.
happier, and
Yeah,
those things aren't there. So it seems kind of ludicrous. We just keep doing more of the
yeah,
same and arguing with people that are,
exactly.
um, anyway, suffice to say, I don't, all things being equal, well, we can't change the world, but we can change our world. That's what people can realize. Yes, I
Yeah,
tomorrow morning I can wake up and predefine my day and decide how I'm going to show up into it. How am I going to treat people? What's my attitude? What's my energy? Where am I going to put my effort towards? That's all up to me. So I can define my day. I can decide I'm going to show up and exude incredible presentness and positivity and kindness to everyone on my path. I can do that. And I decide if that's the case. And kind of in parallel with that, I want to just mention where you said, wow, affecting people positively must be very meaningful. And it'll just tie in and then I'll turn it over to you when we are talking about loss and grief,
hmm,
handling loss, someone passing or handling loss, changes in our life, things that are difficult. One of the best healing things we can do to help us is to live with purpose.
yeah,
Have passion for making a difference in any way you can, to go out and fundamentally, when you're at your worst, help people. If you can help people and make a positive impact and live with purpose, you have purpose, that's going to really help accelerate, I think, for most people, a lot of healing,
yeah.
feeling good, and feeling that meaningfulness for them. But
I
I'll turn
had,
it over to you.
well, a couple things. One, when you just said that with purpose, I had a client who is 83 years old, who's a stroke survivor, did pretty good though. And I trained him probably the whole time I lived in Oregon, I trained him. And before COVID hit, for about that last year, so the stroke support group was an hour and a half away. I'm like, why don't we have one in this small town? No one put one together. So I approached the physical therapist in town and they said, yeah, but they had to postpone it. I don't know why they had to postpone it. You just start it. It's not that hard. Anyway, so one day my ASO client said to me, I think I've had 4 books published at that point. He goes, you're
Wow.
lucky. You have a purpose. I don't have a purpose anymore. All right, okay, let's go get, and I said, we're gonna start the stroke support group now. So by the next Tuesday, I had it set up to go to the library because all you had to do is set it up and you have it. And I told those physical therapists, I go, I'm starting without you guys because but when to hear someone say that to me, it shocked me and it broke my heart that here he is, a man at that age, and that's what he felt like. I'm like, okay, we're snapping out of you right now. So he was at the meetings. Then COVID hit, we had to shut it down. Then I moved. And I don't know if anyone took over it. But also when so we're gonna go over an hour. Are you okay with that?
I'm okay if your listeners are okay.
Because we could always break out in two if it's too long. And yeah, everyone likes listening to. They're listening for hours. Okay, so when another thing about you feel so good when you help someone. That started because when something like that happens, somewhere we were in tune enough within ourselves to hear our gut voice or feel our gut. Let's do this next, or we should help people. So when you hear your gut instincts more when you're taking care of yourself,
Yes.
and it's honoring that when you're sitting alone, you get this gut feeling, and then all of a sudden you look back, God, that started me just a little gut feeling popped in my head one day. Now it's this. And you went through stage 4 cancer. It was in your neck and throat, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And if I'm getting it right, but I'll let you share it too. I know you started, but that's how I found you on Facebook when all the fitness people across there. I was like, oh, he has a dog like me. And I don't know if you friend me or I friended you. I'm like, oh, fitness guy with dog like me, how cool. And then I'm like, wait, I have his books because I have your books on I think it was a Swiss ball training. I don't know, I have a few of them. And I didn't put it together who you were. We used to just get a bunch of education and and then I saw you, I think it was Todd Durkin was interviewing you down in Long Beach, all
Oh,
about your
yeah,
cancer.
yeah.
And I'm like, oh my
Yep.
God, that's the man. And that's the guy with the book. I had no idea. I didn't know your story. And then when I was listening to it, at one point you correct me if I'm wrong, obviously. You listened to your gut. When doctors were kind of blowing you off in the beginning, you went back in because you needed a sign and you had the hood in your car and you went back in until the doctor gave you the scan you wanted. If you
Yeah,
didn't
that's
listen to your gut, or if you didn't have a good mindset, you would have skipped all that and you probably wouldn't be here with us right now. I don't mean to put it that way, but it taking care of your mindset and your bodies, it means so much more than you even could know. Because if you weren't the kind of person listening to your gut, you wouldn't have did what you did in your role of getting yourself diagnosed and healed. If that, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, no, it does. It's a valuable point to share with your listeners. And I'm grateful you brought it up for that reason. Um, and the shortest version of that was from a at the time from a conditioning, fitness, strength, and also at the time my where I lived, what I did, my business was skyrocketing. Everything I would say was a 10 out of 10. And not many, not a lot of life chapters can say that. Everything was just rocking, and I was exceptionally, I think I was 48, but I was the strongest I've ever been in my life and the leanest, and I'm running up and down mountains um and I say that because I was very in tune to my mind and my body, and despite um that level, which was higher than previously in my life, I was in tune to my body, as you say, Tracy. And despite feeling my best ever and being of my most robust strength and conditioning, I also intuitively felt like I had cancer. No symptoms, no pain, no signs, just a nagging voice. I think I have cancer. So
That's
you
a
can
big
imagine going
deal.
into the doctor's office being fit, strong, and positive, and the doctor says, "How are you?" And it's like, "Hey, I'm doing great. What a great day. Oh, by the way, I'm concerned I have cancer, and I don't look sick. I didn't sound sick. I didn't look sick. So I was to get to this point, I was misdiagnosed for 5 years. I saw dozens of doctors periodically, and it's important for people to know that there's going to be someone running in the next Olympics, someone competing in the next Olympics that has cancer and doesn't know it yet. It doesn't necessarily, it's not like getting the flu and you're like shut down. You just have
Exactly.
some tumors, some cells that are going wacky. And, and but your whole rest of you can be super healthy and high performance and at your best, right? So you need to really be in tune and try and stay upstream from that illness. But the doctors would not take me seriously until I went into one doctor, got denied again, and came out, and you brought it up, the crosses on the hood of my truck. It had snowed while I was in at the office, and there was imprinted two giant crosses
From the
in the
heat of the
hood in
engine.
the snow.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
From the heat of the engine.
Well, I suspected, but I suspected like it just must be something like that, but I've never seen that
Yeah.
before. Like
Okay.
no matter how many times it snowed, I'd never seen that, but it was enough to make me pause. So whether it was just mechanical with the truck,
No, it
but I
was
thought,
fine.
I haven't seen it before, and I had 5 years of intuition, kind of small signs like I think I need to get checked out for cancer. And what I took those giant crosses for was if there's a voice that's trying to tell me, a higher voice, they're like, look, dumbass,
Mhm.
we've been giving you subtle signs for 5 years and nudging you forward, but now it's almost too late. Like, here's a
But you
giant
weren't being a
sign, you
dumbass.
will
No, but
notice.
Nobody was listening to you. You weren't being a dumbass. People weren't listening. You were
No, I
trying.
know, but that was just sort of, that's really what I was
Exactly.
telling myself.
Yeah.
And it was also that that's a sign it's either too late, and that's my grave markers,
Oh,
or it's almost too late.
yeah.
And so I raced back in the doctor's office, and the way I approached that, they probably could have charged me, to be honest. Like, I raced in and I demanded an appointment right away to check things out. And 2 days later, I went to an ear, nose, and throat specialist. In 45 seconds with a scope, they found the first giant tumor.
And was it here in your neck or
I
throat
had a
or what was
primary
it?
tumor the size of a baseball in my neck, and then other tumors like upper chest, neck, face, ears,
Okay.
base of the brain stem, stuff like that. But the message is, like, had the medical system cared to give 60 seconds to do a scope
Yeah.
and look in my nose, you know, but this is a message. If I was to approach this again and really felt like, not just like, hey, I want to do some scans for random things just to be for prevention, there's a proper way to do that. But if you really feel like you're ill with something serious and you're not being taken seriously, if I was in this shoes again, I would Google what the symptoms are. And I would go into the office and I would express I have these symptoms, because I want to get taken seriously and I want to get looked at now. And every day counts. Every day that passes, you're further behind the 8 ball and your odds diminish. So that's what I offer my your audience, to encourage them to take action.
And how many months or years did you spend trying to defeat the cancer? Well, how long was it, like months or 6 months, years, or
Trying to,
like when you got chemo and radiation, right? I mean, how
yeah,
long, what was that duration?
that was that first year, and then put it this way: I had radiation and chemo. Cancer would have killed me, so I'm appreciative of the expertise with the radiation and chemo, and I did need to go into that type of treatment because I was, I was so late stage.
Yeah.
If I was stage one, I would try and maybe approach it without radiation and chemo and try
Yeah.
other holistic ways, but just throw the bombs in. We gotta go for it. But it took me many years to restore fully from the radiation and chemo.
Oh yeah, because you have the cells and yeah, you were like doing that with that. What did you call it? Mud juice or some juice you made
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you got
I
really
like, and there's
holistic.
a lot of things you just do quietly. You appreciate being on this side of the ground,
Yeah.
as both you and I can appreciate, having lost people.
Yeah.
And but of course, cancer will kill us, so we need to get rid of it. But the archaic nature of the radiation at that time and its collateral damage on healthy cells and
Yeah.
mucous membranes that are more receptive to radiation than the cancer tumors. Yeah, I still have lots of difficulties that I don't speak about from that are permanent. I have 2.5 muscles in my back that are paralyzed from the nerves being
Oh,
decimated,
I did not know.
that I work around, and
You have a
yeah,
hearing, you have
lot
a hearing loss too, right?
for sure.
Okay, I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, yeah. So and this isn't I'm not special. It's not a special story for me. This is a story that generalizes to everyone,
Yeah,
and
but it
that's
is
our
your story and
yeah.
the mindset definitely helped. I mean, obviously if you didn't take care of yourself, you would have been worse. In
Un,
most cases. I
no,
mean,
100%. I
and then
went
also
in.
if something did happen, you don't look back and go, oh my God, if I would have took care of myself, I wouldn't have this.
Well, you know what?
You know?
Something I realized there is that I'll just share the summary of the statement and not the whole details of the story and for time, but I'm, I've trained for athletics and sport and coached athletes, and so I'm mentally equipped and I'm mentally strong and resilient. And there was times I thought about relenting and giving up.
So you've had that too.
It was so torturous,
Yeah.
nonstop. And one of the things I did, a tool, I just wrote a chapter for a mental well-being book on symbolism. And symbolism is any object that we choose, and we can wrap meaning around it. And then that meaning, which might be mindset strategies and motivation mantras, it can immediately trigger, like flipping a switch, a light switch, us into those advantageous characteristics to help us succeed. And what I have today as a symbol is a stopwatch, because at the time when I was under extreme duress, I called it torturous, is what it felt like to me. And I was losing hope. I committed to 60 seconds. I'm going to stay in the game for 60 seconds. And I set a stopwatch for 1 minute. And then it would go beep, 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 beep. And I would reset it for a minute, reset it for a minute. I got through some days that way. And then it would be 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And I didn't need the stopwatch. But that was a tool that helped me through and bridge a very arduous time period. And so, I look to people, what are your tools? What are your symbols? What are your strategies that you can use to your advantage when things are at their worst? And one thing that people can do right now and get started to another level. Remember, I mentioned, Tracy, when I got diagnosed, I was at my very best in strength and fitness and so on. Well, we like to say athletes in their most important moment, you might hear the media say they rose to the occasion and won that championship or gold medal. Athletes never rise to the occasion. They sink to the level of their training. They sink to the level of their training under fatigue and duress. And so going in, and when any of us go into our biggest battle, we're going to sink from the level we're at. And if I was in my worst shape, physically and mentally and strength, going into that cancer battle, I would not be here.
Yeah.
I happened to get hit and diagnosed when I had a larger depth that I could fall from. And so the number one thing people can do now is like get your level up higher so you have room to fall and still be able
that's a good way to put
succeed.
it. Yeah, that's a very good way to put it. Very good way to put it. We're going to go a few more minutes. There's one, what did we say? We talked about. So one thing that we, there's so much to our mindset and getting through things and this, loss and grieving and everything. And through it, some people get post-traumatic stress at different levels, and that makes things hard. And I know I have part of that.
Yeah.
Do you, you don't have to share it, but do you think you do from your cancer and stuff? You don't have to share if you don't want to, because we're all different. And do we need to diagnose ourselves? No, but sometimes if you read up on something, it's like, oh, that kind of helps. But there's just this putting stuff out there to people. So, and we were talking about listening to your gut, and you knew you had cancer. I get intuitive sometimes. I kept seeing my stepdad would leave my house. He'd like take Wasabi for a walk or something, or come hang out. And he'd be leaving. As he's walking to his car, I would hear, he has bone cancer. He has bone cancer. I'm like, I don't want to see this. But I get the stuff on the other people. I couldn't tell him I was getting that. Couldn't tell my mom.
Yeah.
And that was going on for several months. And then he's still 80 years old. He took apple trees out of my backyard. He still wanted to mow my lawn for me when I was in Oregon. And him and Wasabi were, well, so close.
Cool.
If Wasabi would have passed before him, he could not have handled it. So it went the way it should. Even though I miss him more than I miss them both. I miss my stepdad so much. But he wanted to mow my lawn on like a Saturday morning or something. And the night before, I had a dream that he came and he was collapsed in the backyard in the grass. The paramedics said, come get him. And in the dream, my mom's in the house staying. I told him he needs to go to the doctor and he won't go. So I called my mom and said, tell Lee not to come mow my lawn. I told her my dream. She goes, you better not tell him that. You're going to freak him out. Well, he mows the lawn. He goes home. I think I made blueberry muffins or something for them. And so I called up the next morning. I was just being a smart aleck. I'm like, oh, so how's the blueberry muffin house doing or something? She goes, well, guess where your stepdad is right now? He's at the hospital. So I saw things and it drove me crazy, and it makes things
Yeah.
harder because I know I couldn't stop it from happening. But, with myself, I could go to the doctor, but you can't force people to go. So that
Right.
was hard too. When you get an intuition, you have to listen. Um, it helps you with care, it helps you with work, but we
Yeah.
kind of have to be at our best so we can get them too. Like I was saying earlier. So that helps with all that. And so quickly before you go, you lost your father how many years ago?
It's been about a decade and a half now.
Oh, 8.5.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're older too. Um, I'm assuming it was tough on you too. Was
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, no, without question. I come from a family, and to say it properly, I'll say we did not have financial wealth. And I say that so it sets me up to say we were wealthy in every other way.
and your love for each
We
other and
had we had a
care and
wonderful,
everything.
yeah, we had a wonderful, safe,
That's
loving
nice.
home, and very blessed in all those ways. So the loss of my father was extremely difficult. Yeah.
And did you the way your mind so he didn't know you had cancer or did he?
No, I didn't at that time at all. No, but
Okay.
um, yeah, his story had parallels in that he was misdiagnosed for a number of years and then diagnosed late stage, and it took him down really fast. And
Okay.
my situation was eerily similar, which gave me extra determination to create a different ending.
And you did.
Yeah, I
And
did.
do you still have to go like every 6 months to get scanned, or how do you know it's gone? Sorry
A
to
couple.
ask that, but I'm just how
Yeah,
do you
I guess you never know for sure, but as far as them having utility to keeping a close eye on you, about a year and a half or two ago, I got kicked out of the cancer club, and they said that's enough. We don't want to see you anymore. So it was like,
they're
right,
doing
right
people?
on. I never wanted to be in this club in the first place, so
Yeah,
I've been kicked out of all kinds of places. I'll appreciate getting kicked out of here. So I don't. And you brought up my father, and we started the call on loss, and we're talking about that cancer, and so I am very grateful. I really respect and appreciate that there's lots of other tough people who tried their best, who gave it everything, who you know didn't make it through. And if it's not cancer, then everybody listening here has some other type of difficulty, many of
oh
them
yeah,
health, but there's many other types of challenges too. Difficulty and challenge and trying to survive and overcome and rebuild and get through, navigate difficult things. That's our commonality that binds us. So
yeah.
again, let's be kind with everyone on our path, knowing that they could probably use that more than anything. And but in my story and referencing, circling back, way back to the start of our podcast interview and discussion, you talking about loss, going through my cancer, looking for a different outcome than my father enjoyed, I was also drawing upon the best attributes of my father. And I think 365 in all times of life, that's something that's helped me manage grief and loss and carry forward, standing a little taller, is that I feel it's an honor and an opportunity and something my father deserves, that I represent the best to him,
That's nice. Yeah,
and to carry on his legacy a bit, but just that he's still alive in me, not just in my memory and heart, but by my actions and my attitude, how I show up for people. I'm representing the best to him, and that's part of my personal mission. And that helps me heal from his loss. It helps him live currently forward, and it really advantages my path because he was an amazing man and had some great attributes and characteristics. And when I purposely represent the best to him, I'm becoming a better human and the best human and impacting people on my path the best way that both me and my father know how, let's say,
Yeah,
and
and
my
it's
mom and my
honoring
family and
him.
everyone I've
Yeah,
learned from, but you know what I mean.
yeah,
So it
yeah.
helps. I offer that as something that's helped me in my healing and grief and keeping my mind conscious on my father, aware of his strengths and great characteristics and attributes, and making sure that I represent those. And that's
That's nice.
it's interesting. He was, when I grew up as a young boy and a young man, he was the coach and I was the athlete. And that was a big part of our relationship. And by carrying the best of him forward, he's still kind of coaching me today.
That's nice. You hear his voice still telling you,
He's
and he's
still
up there
guiding
watching
me, still
over.
mentoring him. And
Yeah,
that same story or approach, that same approach is available to everyone if they so choose.
yeah,
Who have they lost, and would they like to, honor and represent some of their best characteristics forward? And I'm sure that that would help them in healing, but help advantage them to be more towards their A+ game
yeah.
as they pursue life.
So one more thing, and then even though we could talk about
Yes,
this
yes.
forever. Okay, so I know for me, so I not that my family was completely horrible, but it's not like yours. We weren't they my mom wasn't the kind of person who hugged you. My dad was the one that hugged you. My brothers were mean to me since I was little, just bullies, and they still are. The stress I've gone through because my father passed,
Yeah,
I don't even know how I survived it. So there's people who dealing in loss that come from all different dynamics. And one thing that I know that I struggled with was the, I don't want to say the lack of ability or the lack of effort. People don't know what to say, they don't know what to do, so they do
right.
nothing. And they leave all these people abandoned and alone, and it breaks. Well, I was there in the heartbroken, going through everything. Even when my stepdad had cancer, many people didn't check on me because I was just a stepmom. It's like, okay, can someone be there for me? So you have to become so strong within yourself and to stay in a
Yeah,
positive mindset. And it is harder for some people because you don't have six other people here cheering you on. You only have yourself. What advice do you have for someone? Well, I guess it'd be someone like me, and someone who is dealing with loss. People aren't gathering for him, people aren't checking on him as much, but they still want to move forward. But I mean, you have to gather so much strength out of yourself when you're just beaten down.
yeah.
You don't always have these other people here kind of there giving you the strength. Um, what would be your advice to people who, I don't want to say they take the easy way out. They're just like, oh, I just didn't know what to say, so I didn't call you, or oh, I'll give you a quick example. I was in Oregon, and when I ran into someone I knew at the coffee shop, this was years ago. She goes, "Oh, I want you to meet my friend. She lost her husband a few months ago," and so we were talking and stuff. And then I don't know how long later it was. I said, so how's your friend doing? I'm at the coffee shop. She's, oh, it's been 6 months since her husband died, and she's still crying a lot over it. So I haven't talked to her. That upset me so much for that person. I felt so bad for her. But
Yeah.
people do that. So we need to work on our inner strength, but sometimes we really need other people there too. I mean, but the people that get through things really on their own, they're tough and they're strong, and but it's exhausting. But what would be your advice for people that care for people, but they don't know what to do, so they decide to do nothing when they know their friends are struggling or like that? You know what I'm asking?
I do, I do. I'm gonna go straight to it, and I think something for the person who doesn't know what to say, doesn't know what to do. It is an awkward, uncomfortable situation, and a lot of things people can say don't help or just upset the person who's struggling.
Yeah, they
And
feel
I'm
more
going to say
abandoned.
one thing for the person who's struggling. A friend of mine, this doesn't come from me. This is something I learned recently from a friend of mine who's a brilliant mind and a beautiful soul, asked me, yeah, and I pause because I'll get emotional because it's like, wow, I feel like I was just treated like a human for the first time in my life.
Wow.
And she said, how's your heart? She was sincere and present, very present, and inside that moment. And she said simply, how's your heart doing? That really opens and welcomes, like, authentically how you feel, authentically how you're doing. It was such a caring question,
Hmm.
and right, really right to the heart of it, and a simple way to ask. And without even answering, I already felt better,
Cared for.
just
Hmm.
cared for and seen, and someone willing for me to be heard,
And
uh,
someone connecting to the pain. Someone
connecting to the
connecting right to
pain.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, how's your heart doing? Tracy, how's your heart doing? And it's right, that's not superficial, that's not
Not at
talking
all.
around it, that's,
And it's
and
so
it's a
easy.
wonderful caring question.
Yes, I like that. That's well put because that just you saying it makes me feel good too.
Yeah,
Because that's what it
yeah,
is. People just need that connection, and then they don't want because sometimes like, well, I'm gonna go eat a sandwich and 4 glasses of milk because that I'm gonna feel something. They,
yes,
they
yes.
want to feel, so that makes them go to food, even though they don't want to. They know it's not good. It's like, well, I need to feel something. No one's here hugging me. You know, I'm gonna go eat a popsicle or whatever. So,
Yeah, yeah.
and I always tell people, I've said this for years, when you're first of all, studies do show that sometimes people live alone, they isolate a lot. It's not good for their brain. It's good for the brain to communicate and have socializing.
Yes,
So be nice to your friends, make an effort to people that may be alone because you're helping their brain care. You're helping their brain 20 years from now when they're like 80 or something because
yes.
it's part of life. And in my children's book on the brain, I talk about don't, be nice to your friends because being kind to your friends is good for their brain. It's good for where we are 20 years from now because I don't want to get like
Absolutely.
dementia or something because I was isolated. So I'm try real hard not to let things take me that way.
Yes.
Oh, but it's more than just the moment I feel uncomfortable. I don't want to say to the person. It's like, you guys, it goes beyond. It goes beyond, just like you said, just that question, how is your heart? It's just like that touch
Yeah.
there just makes you, it's huge,
Huge. Yeah.
huge.
And
And it makes them feel better to go to sleep that night.
absolutely,
They got
absolutely.
touched.
So wonderful, wonderful question to ask sincerely while present in the moment.
Hmm.
And and then over on the other side of the fence for the person who's struggling, and you've brought up, which I agree with, to have support, to have company, and that's good for our brain and our hearts and our healing. But one slice of the pie that I think can really help people, which is counterintuitive, is to have solo time,
Yeah.
even when they feel isolated. And one of the most difficult times, and this is to move forward very present with your own motions and mindset and pain,
Mhm.
where quite often we mask that with food and alcohol and drugs. We distract from it with going out with friends just to have noise and friends and conversation,
Yeah.
and we distract ourselves from it. And one of the paths I took, which was one of the most difficult things I've ever done in my life, and highly uncomfortable but amazingly helpful, was I got in motion physically, which is very difficult for all of us to do when we're at our worst. I went into the forest by myself, and I either had no music, so I was just 100% present, or I was playing these Christian folk songs. And my type of spiritualism is no longer Christian and structured religion. However, I do appreciate Christian folk music. It's very soothing and positive and
Mhm.
great positive lyrics. But there's one song, it's called this is where the healing begins. And it can come across, if you just listen to it, it's like, oh my God, that's a sad song. Like that's not going to lift me up at all. But I wasn't being lifted up. I was moving forward with the immensity of my pain, and that's who I was, and just being with my thoughts, being with my emotions, being with my pain, being in forward motion, one arduous step at a time, Tracy, by myself, undistracted, fully in that awfulness and in the forest, mindfully moving forward. And every day it got an ounce easier, an
Did it ever
ounce
scare you?
easier, an ounce easier.
Did it ever scare you? Did you ever think like, oh my God,
Oh,
that's so much, I better not feel any deeper right now, I better stop? Or you
sorry, what?
did you ever get to a point, because I think this could be some people's fear of that too. You feel where you're at and the pain or whatever you're going through so real that it may scare the crap out of them.
I could see people feeling that way. Yeah. Yeah,
Did you ever feel
absolutely.
that way?
But I think there's something too, like, okay, connect, receive support, don't be too isolated all the time. How can people support? I think there's really some value
Hmm.
in your most difficult challenges is mindfully stepping through it with the intent to move forward
Yeah.
as best you can solo. And that's really counterintuitive and kind of contra to most of the mental health advice. I feel that was one of the biggest
No,
tools.
that makes sense
Just
because we
one
need the
slice of the
balance of
pie.
that. Yeah.
Pardon
You
me?
need the balance of that. You can't just be around someone 24 hours a day. You do need your solar mind, your solo mindset. You need alone time.
Best way to get through it is to get into it.
Yeah.
You got to get into it and go in deep so you can get through. And if we stay like around it and distracted from it, then it's just gonna be there for a
Exactly.
long time. And I believe there's an opportunity, even though it feels like someone's listening now and something feels so dark and massive and heavy that can't even imagine there's any light ahead. Um, but I believe again that can be our in slow motion a springboard to our
Yeah.
highest self
And that's a
and to
part of
move
the,
forward believing that's possible.
yeah. And that's a part of wanting me to do, share the part in loss and grief. It's okay to be in those moments. It doesn't mean we're being bad people or we're being lazy and losers. We have to, those moments when you have to feel what you're going through
Absolutely.
isn't a negativity. So when someone says, oh, well, she's still missing her husband after 6 months, well, she's not, this woman's not being negative. She's still processing and at her own level. And but going in the forest like you did is cool because I know I've been in those rainforests. It just feels like you're in magic healing zone, just standing by the moss and the ferns. And sometimes
Yeah,
you feel like a fairy should fly by. It feels so real.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Arrange and organize and go to and receive and consume all of the healthy inputs you can that may have some type of advantage for you. That could be like what's things I've done. I've walked in a church basement. I've walked a labyrinth while I'm meditating. I've gone to sound bathing. I've hugged some trees. I've swam up an inlet in the ocean. Of course, our healthy food, our exercise, um, reading books, that are positive for you, but reading them by the river in a location with nature and the sounds. I've even gone in and had a great day with a friend that I set up for her, going through extreme difficulty, and we were at the base of the mountain, and we went in, and there was a waterfall, and we did some chanting and
Cool.
we did some sort of Buddhist chanting, and then we drove up to the top of the mountain and for spring skiing in time for the sunset over the ocean. We were there for the sunset with a side of skiing, a little bit of
That's
skiing,
very cool.
mountain and sunset. It
Yeah.
was the environment. It was
Yeah.
the environment. And really encourage people to put themselves in environments that uh, have the type of energy
Yeah.
high
I've,
vibration
yes.
energy that gives you a lot of healing, gives you a
Have
lot
you
of love.
So you said you done sound baths where you lay down, they're playing the drums and the.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I've been doing that too. And so the girl does Reiki on me. We do that at the same time. So I have, then I thought, oh, I want my rattle. So I have rattles. I have everything here so I could do it myself. My dog loves it. They come over and
Oh,
he
wow.
runs to the room and sits there and waits. We call him
Oh,
Reiki.
that's fun.
Yeah. So we call him Reiki Riley. Wasabi
Dogs,
likes
no,
it too.
dogs are the ultimate. They have the ultimate wisdom.
Yep. So I'll go and they go, oh, Reiki's coming today, and he'll run and sit in that room and wait for the girl. And then when she comes, he almost like attacks her at the door. But yeah, so sometimes if I'm feeling and I haven't told a lot of people, it's only people understand it. I'll walk around the house and I'll do the drum and just kind of my own little just drumming because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
sitting hurts. If I sit too long, it hurts my back. I'm getting better though, but walking, so I'll walk. I made the house up so I can walk around. I made it so I can walk around, or I can go in the backyard and walk past. Sometimes I'll do the drums or shake the rattles when I'm walking, just because it's healing and it
Yeah,
works. I don't know. It makes you feel better.
absolutely. I love that. I love that you love it. Your dog loves it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say while we're still on here together, because we're connected by Huskies, Wasabi. In Wasabi not only an awesome dog, but probably the best name for a dog in the history of the world,
His middle
especially a
name was
Husky.
Saki.
Huh?
Wasabi Saki. Wasabi Saki was his illegal name because
I
I like
love it.
sake and I like wasabi. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so he was. So I
Couldn't do
actually
any
told
better.
myself when I get older, I'm gonna have two huskies. They're gonna be
Yep.
called Wasabi and Saki. But when I was married, I had a stalker. So the police said either get a dog or security system that we're getting a dog. My husband's like, really? I'm like, yeah. So I went and looked at dogs and no one, the dogs, which one's supposed to be your dog. So I'm at this place and the whole kind of stunk. And here comes walking up with Wasabi and he was like 3.5 months old. I'm like, that's it. That's the dog. So I sent my husband at a time, we're getting this one. He goes, we are. I'm like, well, yes, we are. And then I named him Wasabi Saki. And yeah, he made it to 14. He was my baby. And this dog I have now, neighbors are a couple blocks away, the owners passed. First the wife passed, then the husband passed, and their kids in the 40s didn't want him. And he was 10. So some neighbors with the dog said, do you want a Labradoodle? I'm like, well,
Those are
let's see.
great
So I did,
dogs.
and I got him. I've never gone without an animal. So I went from Wasabi passing until I got him with no animal. And it was weird because I always had cats or dogs, always had something in the house to talk
Yes.
to, you know, feed, take care of, walk, and so now I have him. And so he'll turn 11 next month, so he's already older. So I've already told myself, okay, it won't be a long time, but I have him. So, but didn't you get a new husky? Did you get the white husky?
Right now I'm fostering the Husky and training it up, and
Okay.
I'm 98% certain that I might be the adopting family that I'm looking for.
Does he
Um,
howl?
Pardon me?
Has he howled yet? Have you howled with him?
I actually have. He's a talker. He's a
Okay. Good.
great talker. It's so awesome. I love that part of Huskies. And I think by day three, as a Husky, it's very rare. But day three, great off leash. Not
Oh,
enough in
nice.
an
Yeah.
urban setting, but in the mountains and on the trails and public spaces that dogs can roam around without calling him. So he's a smart dog. He's coming
Oh,
along
nice.
quickly, and
And how old
I'll
is he?
I'll I'll have him as a third leg for sure. We'll get our
Oh,
12-hour hikes in the mountains
nice.
going and great adventures ahead.
And how
Um,
many, have you called him Bruno like every day? I call this dog Wasabi at least once a day.
do
I don't mean
you?
to. Or
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
call him Riley. I'll mix Riley up with Wasabi. Or once in a while, I'll call him my cat's name I had 10 years ago. I'm like, where did that come from? It's just
Well, you
what
got
happened.
some tremendous four-legged friends, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, well, I know we can talk forever. We'll have to do this again, but I hope to everybody listening or watching, but if you're hearing it just in audio or watching, that something we shared helps you. That's why we did this to share our stories. I think the course you talked about sounds amazing. I think we all can use that because, life throws us daggers like all the time. We don't want them,
Yeah.
but they're there. But I think sometimes people because we see people on social media and it seems like, oh, they're positive every second of the day. They never have a
Mm.
problem. And I think not that we want to say we have problems, but I think if they realize that people aren't on pedestals, everybody has something they're facing. No one's going to be sharing all over, you don't want to share it all over social media all the
Yeah.
time because who will follow you if you're it's like, oh, I'm a problem every day. You know what I mean? So, but just so people understand that everybody has something they're going through,
Yeah.
some harder and others depends, and just be nice to each other and be kind and
Be kind.
yeah, and be kind to yourself and try to take care of your body because it affects it's your brain and your mindset. And drink your water. Because if you're even slightly dehydrated, it will make your brain, I don't think goofier, but it does. You can't focus as well. And that's what I always told my stroke survivors. Your brain's already struggling.
Mm.
You heal, but if you're dehydrated as well, your brain has a double whammy. It's trying
Yeah,
to
good
deal
wording.
with making new pathways and recover movements, but you're not, it's dehydrated, so it can't do what it needs to do. And that's, like I have to put an app on my phone to make sure I'm drinking the much water as I think I am. Like, well, I'm not drinking. I didn't think I thought I was drinking enough. I'm like, even I was drinking wrong, but you sleep better, you can think clearer. Um, with all the stuff you're going through, it just helps your
Good
brain.
emphasis and an easy thing for people to go to. Drink more water, get hydrated. There's an
Yeah.
easy one positive step right at
And
our
it's
fingertips, right
huge.
at our lips, really,
Yeah, and
basically,
it's
right?
huge. It's not a little thing. It's huge.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. So,
So,
a few last reminders for me. We know health is the ultimate wealth, and hydration is a great place to start. It's an effortless edge. You just do it. Um,
yeah, just do it.
Remember, however you're feeling today, if you've been sedentary, how you feel is invalid. You don't know how you validly feel emotionally and mentally until you've been in motion. Being sedentary is an unnatural state for the brain and body. So before you decide how you feel, get in motion, then conclude this is my baseline of how I truly feel, and you can make your plans from there. Remember that the brain health that Tracy emphasized, how the brain goes, we go, and mindset affects everything. Mindset affects everything. Upgrade your mindset, upgrade your life and your relationships and career and sport and everything, your aspirations and your day by day, moment by moment happiness
Yeah.
by your mindset. I'll conclude saying, be kind, err on being kind, live in grateful spirit. Live in grateful spirit. And if you want to connect or your compass pointed, you can find me on Instagram, Coach Peter Twist.
Yes. And then I'll put your website when I upload this, I'll put more connections down there too. Or you can just Google him. He's all over the place and you can go right to his website and everything too. He's not hard to find. I'm not hard either. If you want to find someone, you can Google him. So thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening. This was a long show, but it was a good subject. We may break it up in two. We'll see how it goes. Thank you, Peter Twist, for being here. We hope something we said helped you guys. And everybody have a great day. Thank
Yeah,
you, Peter.
great and amazing day. Thank you, Tracy. Keep being incredible. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.